Okay, let's get started. Hey horror freaks, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ibenza. If this is the first time here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can get notification every single time that I post a video, and I post every single week. As you can see from the title, today's video is going to be my full review with spoilers of Pearl, an extraordinary origin story. This one is going to follow Pearl's story and her origin as a villain from the slasher horror movie of this year, X. Now, as always, all my reviews are with spoilers. If you don't want them just to see if this was worth it or not, on the description box down below, there you're going to find my spoiler-free review because I like to give you guys the two options. So giving that little token disclaimer ahead, let's get into the video. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was so excited when I heard that a prequel of X was being made. In case that you don't know, Pearl was just announced as the post-credit scene of X. It was a short teaser trailer. You were only going to be able to see it if you went to the movie theater. Like, it wasn't on the internet, and it's still, I haven't even found it. Like, I don't know if it's actually somewhere out there. But of course, an official trailer of Pearl came out a few months ago with the official announcement that will be coming this year on September 16. I was actually surprised because although the film was shot back to back after X using the same location and in a complete secret, still I was expecting this film to later, maybe the end of the year or even 2023. I wasn't expecting this film to be released 6 months later, but I am not going to complain about it because I was really excited. I love it, X. In my opinion, X is indeed one of the best horror films of this year. If you haven't watched it already, you need to watch it, like, so good. And of course, Pearl is here once again to bring us the origin story of Pearl that is again portrayed by Mia Goth, but in this case we're seeing her younger version. Now, this film follows trapped on her family isolated farm. Pearl must tend to her ailing father under the bitter and overbearing watch of her devout mother. Lusting for glamorous life like she's seen in the movies, Pearl's ambitions, temptations, and representations all collide in this stunning Technicolor-inspired origin of the ex-villain. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about, and one of the things I like it the most, was the coloring. Cinematography speaking, I think that this film, it's beautiful. It reminds me a lot to The Wizard of Oz. This is a film classic. Like, this is definitely one of those films like you need to watch at least once in your life. Like, it's a classic from Hollywood, and it reminds me a lot of that, even though Wizard of Oz, of course, is not horror. But if you have seen Wizard of Oz, and even with the trailer, you will realize that it's heavily inspired in that type of films. Even Ty West said on an interview that he was inspired, and his mission with this film was to portray Hollywood's golden age and also portray with Pearl how Hollywood could harm people. Because throughout the film, what we see, it's Pearl and this heavy desire to be a star. Doesn't matter the cost. Like, she's willing to do anything to be a star. Now, she's married to Howard. Howard is basically shown at the end of the film because he's in war, because the film takes place in the late 1910s. We are on World War I, and also it's the Spanish flu. So we see some people with masks on. We see this fear of people getting close to each other because they are in the middle of a pandemic. Fitting, right? But although she's married, she still lives with her mother and now her ill father. And she basically has to take care of him since the mother is taking care of the whole house, the food and everything. So Pearl, what has to do is taking care of the farm and also the father. Throughout the film, is implied that they used to have a more successful farm and they had more employees. That's actually how Pearl and Howard met, because he's from a wealthy family, but he wanted to be a farmer. He went to live with Pearl's family. That's how they met, and they got married. She even wears the ring all throughout the film, but I think that at some point she kind of forgets that she's married. Now, since Pearl was shot on the same set as X, of course, it's easy to recognize it, but with a big difference, and it's the color and the furniture and the state of the house and the farm and the house where the crew is staying the night on X, like the where they're staying the night. And the house, of course, looks way better, vibrant, like alive. Like the whole film compared to X looks. I would compare it to maybe Corpse Bride, the world of the living and the world of the dead, because X it's like brownish and without color, and of course resembles a lot Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But then we have Pearl that resembles Wizard of Oz, well, specifically in the part where it's in color and it's so bright and colorful. And it's kind of this contrast between the two stories. But I think that definitely fits the story and the vibe that the director was going to, because something that I like about Ty West and something that I like in both of X and Pearl, this is something that I also like about the film, is that they can become an immersive experience, because the script is heavily inspired, of course, in the way that these people used to speak on these times. We know, of course, that throughout decades, people will talk and behave differently socially. And of course, this is a key part when you're doing a film in a specific period of time. To give you an example, imagine if The Witch was with modern vocabulary. It wouldn't have the same effect. So of course, here in Pearl, we have that type of vocabulary of the time which fits perfectly. There's some words that can be weird, or maybe you have never heard them before, but it's not hard to understand. Like, it's not that type of film where you're trying so hard to understand what they're saying. Like, it happened to me with the Northman. Like, the vocabulary, it was kind of difficult for me to like get it, but of course I got the film. But in the case of Pearl, of course, happens, and it gets really immersive. And like I said, the way that it's filmed like resembles The Wizard of Oz, to a point that there's a scene where Pearl is on a bike, and it reminds me a little bit of the beginning of the film when we have the woman that will be portraying the Wicked Witch of the West, which I don't remember her name as a character, that she wants to take Toto away from Dorothy. If you have watched the film, you know which one I'm talking about. There's a scene when she's on the bike, and the way that is portrayed on Pearl, it reminds me a little bit of it, because Pearl, she needs to move on her bike to go to the town to get medicine for her father. But since she's a fan of the movies and she wants to be a star, she sneaks into the movie theater to watch a film of dancers. When she gets out, she meets the projectionist, who shows interest in her, and she shows interest in him. That's why I said that I think that she forgot that she's married, although she screams, "I am married," to a scarecrow, because when she's going to her house, she stops and she gets eventually to a scarecrow. And this scene is actually shown on the trailer, and at first she's dancing with the scarecrow. Then she gets in top of him, and it's like, honey, what the hell are you doing? And she kind of imagines that it's the projectionist, but then she's screaming to the scarecrow, "I am married." And well, it's okay, honey, good that you remember that you're married. But eventually she hookups with the projectionist, and when he realizes that Pearl is not on her senses, because she shows throughout the film, like, goes like in crescendo, how deep into her mind is her desire to become a star, and how upset she gets when she doesn't get what she wants to get out of the farm and get the life that she wants. Like, he sees that and he's like, "Pearl, you're scaring me. It was nice meeting you, but I am out. Like, no, I just can't." She kills him and she throws him to the lake, and the crocodile does the work. In the car included, like, she pushes the car with him on the inside. So the poor guy, he was interested on the girl, but she of course wanted way more, because he kind of promises her that he will take her to Europe. And that was like for her like the best thing ever, because she's upset with her husband because he left her, because he went to war. And It's like, honey, it's not his fault that he had to go to war. But that leads me to another thing that, in my opinion, is the best thing about the film is Mia's goth performance. We saw her in X as Maxine, right? She did really good, like impressive, good. But here she's phenomenal. Like for me, the best part of the film, it's her. Like she gets so deep into the character. She has a monologue and this long scene, like it's one shot, and she's pouring her heart in it, like those heavy tears, her facial expressions, the way that she's telling everything, like she's pouring all of Pearl's desires and feelings and everything. That I was like, wow, damn, good. Like this, in my opinion, one of the best parts of the film. There are some parts where she's like so happy and with so much hope of getting what she wants, and when she doesn't get it, she gets really upset, and you can really see that switch of how she starts like screaming, and her behavior and her facial expression. Like it's a combination of everything, but you can really see the switch like on and off, how she's happy and then she's so angry to the point that she kills people. There's a point on the film when she's doing an audition because this church is looking for a girl with the X Factor to get her out of the town to do this tour around the state and eventually throughout the country, because they want to give like happiness and hope to people on the holidays because of the war. And she goes to the audition. This is such a good scene because she gets so into the performance that we switch the stage from just a stage with the curtains to whole dancers and even fireworks. Like they're giving it all. And when she's ended, they're like, thank you, but no, next. And she's like, no, 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 no. You need to give me this chance. And she starts seeing her dead mother because she kills the mother. She burns the mother. She kills her father. She suffocates him with a pillow. And we see the projectionist that is already dead. She's seeing them all on the table, telling her that she's not good enough. And you know, that type of dismotivation. She gets heavily upset, and then she's on the stairs on the side of the church, like heavily crying. And I'm like, she's crying, like she's really crying. So I think that the emotions were there, and in my opinion, like I said, it's one of the best things of the film. Now, the other thing that I liked was how they portrayed her relationship with her mother. They remind me a lot to Carrie's relationship with her mother. There's even a scene that remind me where Carrie's telling the mom that she's going to prom, and it's raining and they have some lightings, and she throws the glass of water to Carrie, and she's telling the mom like, I am going to prom. Of course, here they're not talking about prom, but about the audition. And she stands up, she slaps her, Pearl slaps her back, they start screaming to each other. And this is when she accidentally gets burned. Like she gets too close to the fireplace, her skirt gets burned and all the way up. And Pearl like basically throws to her some water, but it's not enough. And she's basically like 85% burn. Like there's some parts that there aren't, but most of the body is burned. And she throws her to the basement and leaves her there. She leaves the father that can't move, like he's completely paralyzed, like he's conscious and alive, but he can talk and he's completely paralyzed. And she leaves with their projectionist, and this is when they hook up. And when they return, is he sees the father on the wheelchair, and he hears something, and it's the mother but paralyzed, and that's when the whole thing of the killing happens. And of course, since she's married, she has a sister-in-law, and it's to her that Pearl says the monologue. Oh, I hate this. The monologue. And then she kills her. Like she kills almost everybody that steps on her way, because Pearl believes that her sister-in-law got part when she didn't. And for her, she's like a threat. So she kills her, and also she tells her everything and she confesses everything. The mother, of course, was between her and her dreams because she didn't want it to let her daughter go. The father because she will have to take care of him her whole life, and now the projectionist because he realized that she was lying, and the sister-in-law because she knew it all. And that lead us to Howard, that is the last person that is in Pearl's life and doesn't know anything, and he's so happy to see his wife and the family that he lives with, only to find the corpses of the mother and the father on the dining room, and Pearl making like lemonade, I would say. Like she has this jar on her hands and was kind of like yellowish, so I would say that was lemonade. And she's so happy. This is the shot when she's like this, like that's the last shot, and she's like, I'm so happy you're home. And the credits start rolling, but she's like this, but she keeps smiling, but with tears. Like she's trying to hold a smile, but big fat tears start like running throughout her cheeks. And that's how the film ends. I really like it how she said, I am so glad you're home, because it reminded me there's no place like home. Like that vibe of Wizard of Oz, like it's there, like heavily there. It even remind me a little bit, just a little bit, to Gone with the Wind. Just a little bit because of the aesthetic and the way that it was filmed, but mainly Wizard of Oz. Generally speaking, I didn't dislike it, like not like something that I was like, oh, this ruined the whole film or something, but it left me with some questions. Because of course we know that by X, Pearl and Howard are living on the farm. So first we know that she didn't become a star, but how she got away with the murders and how Howard forgave her and decided to stay with her. Like that's something that really came to mind, like how that man decided to stay with her, because of course she had to confess. So it makes me question, why Howard? Why? That's something I would have liked to see. Just a little bit of maybe Howard coming to his senses and realizing that it's either this or leaving her, maybe realizing that he will be in danger and that he will die. Like that is something that I would have liked to see. Like maybe being implied that he's staying with her mostly by fear rather than love. Like he loves her, but he's basically scared for his life, so he decides to stay and help her. And also he has a mother, like she appears on the film, like, man, you had a daughter and now you have a son that came back, so aren't you never going to search your daughter or go and visit your son? Like those were the things that I would have liked to see, or at least being implied to what happened, because definitely I would have liked to know how the hell Howard decided to stay with her and how they got away with murders. But still, like in general, I didn't dislike it like anything. Like it's nothing that ruined the film. Now, if I feel like this film is better than X, no. I feel like X is way better. This one, it feels more psychological horror than the slasher, but the slasher is pretty good. Like those slasher moments and the gore, like really good. Like I really like it. Those like, at some point, Pearl gets the head of the sister-in-law and throws it to the lake, and I was like, oh, like love that whole scene of her getting rid of the bodies, so good. But I feel like this wasn't as intense as X. Also, I feel like X was very different. Like the first 4 or 5 minutes are something, and the other part of the film is pure horror. And in this case, the horror element starts way earlier in the film compared to X. That's not something like a negative thing. Like it's not. It's just an observation. But I feel like on those horror elements, this one was a little bit more smoother rather than the intense and that build up tension that X had. But I think that the endings were equally good and they leave you wanting more, which is, of course, a good thing. Now, in case that you didn't know this already, we have a sequel coming up called Maxine. The teaser trailer was officially released on Tuesday, and also someone posted a tweet about it, and I was like, oh, if this was a surprise, then I think that it's not gonna work. But they basically posted the trailer a few hours later. So basically the teaser, what it shows, it says Los Angeles 1985 and the word Maxine, like mimicking the Hollywood sign, and then goes black, and also it's like this VHS type of effect, and it says Maxine with 3X coming soon. And I am expecting this film to be coming next year. Like, I don't think that we're gonna have to wait that much for the film. Of course, Mia Goth will be reprising her role, and this film is supposed to be following Maxine's journey to becoming a star now in Hollywood. We don't know how specifically, I don't have more details, but I am happy about it. Now, this is something that Ty West wanted to do. Like, this is not something that he pulled out of his sleeve and decided to start inventing. Like, no, this is something that he had planned all along. He wanted to do more sequels because he wanted to create this slasher franchise, which is good. I'm not gonna lie, I love slashers. They are my favorite subgenre, and it's refreshing to see a modern slasher franchise, because of course we have them, but we all know that they're pretty old, so it's good to see a franchise starring now. Like, I think that is a really good thing, and he's doing a good job. So I am really happy to see what the hell Maxine is going to bring, because of course, like I said, Mia Goth did a really good job, so I can't wait to see her once again. Now, my rating for this film will be a 4 out of 5. Like I said, for me, it's good. But I don't know, I think that it's missing just a little bit something, like an X factor. But I think that is good. The best one of the year, I think that this will be on a top 15 list, because my list of the best ones of the year is changing because of other films that have been coming since July, because my list, I made it from January to June, so of course July, August, September, they aren't included. Those will be included on my list I will be doing in December. I feel like Pearl will be like on a top 15, but not on a top 5 or a top 10, but it's still really good. So this one will be, like I said, 4 out of 5 or 8 out of 10. Like, seriously, so good. But well, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about this film. Do you like it? Do you prefer X? Do you prefer Pearl? How do you feel about Maxine? Let me know. Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys on my next video. Bye.